Neve here, and this is day 4 of my deck deep dive for the Pacific Northwest Tarot. And day 4 is on day 3. I reordered the deck, so it's back at the beginning. This is the Fool, and it's in order. So the day 4 is going over the first 6 cards of the Major Arcana. So I'm going to move some of the stuff out of the way. And we've got the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, 3, 4, 5, and finally, I think I'm barely in frame here. I have little pens to mark where my camera goes. So, and finally, the Hierophant. Okay, so that's the first 6 cards. So, my list here of the days. Day 4, reorder the deck. Pull out the first 6 cards, Fool through Hierophant. Record intuitive feelings about each card and any visuals. Read the guidebook's entry. Record my interpretation of the card. With these cards set aside, shuffle the remaining cards and do a 3-card spread or 2 cards with primary focus in the middle for each of these 6 cards. Observe how this card interacts with the cards drawn for it. Shuffle entire deck throughout the day. So there we go. And now I'm going to switch back to my Pacific Northwest deep dive. So I've written my thoughts from day 2, which was the separating into 3 piles. So, all right, so let's do this. We'll do the Fool first. All right, the Fool. All right, so the Fool card usually represents sort of just embarking on an adventure, or sometimes it could be sort of a leaping before you're looking. There's usually an animal there with, in the traditional imagery, there's an animal there to, as sort of a guide or a warning, like, hey, don't, hey, watch where you're going. And, you know, that's, I think why it's often called the Fool, because it's someone who's just jumping headlong into something without really thinking things through. And, you know, sometimes that's a positive thing, because sometimes overthinking is the problem, you know, where the Fool is sort of a just do it sort of card, and it's really the beginning of an adventure. There's a lot of excitement around it. And so here we have an otter, I believe. And yes, and so I'm not exactly, you know, right here with this imagery, specifically with this card, we're just seeing an otter floating in the ocean, and otters are very excitable creatures. So potentially that is the connection here. With the Fool card for this particular deck, there isn't anything overtly that I'm seeing displayed in the card that is associated with the traditional Fool. But let's see what the book says about this. So, the Fool, sea otter. And I do love otters. I did a painting of otters on my art channel, and I'll leave a card pop up to my art channel if you guys are at all interested. I haven't posted there in a long time, though. All right, so the Fool, sea otter, naivete, spontaneity, innocence, carefree, living in the moment, beginning a journey, a leap. All right, so here's what the book says about the otter. And I'm not necessarily going to read out loud each entry, because I don't know if that's allowed. But I will be reading, I'll be discussing some of the, what the book is saying about each one. All right, so the otter had never left the bay. Why would he? The water was warm and the abalone plentiful. This was where all the other otters lived. And no one had ever left. Well, probably. In the evenings, floating in a raft of 100 other otters with his favorite rock tucked securely under his arm, he would stare out over the endless golden pink expanse of the ocean. His companions warned him of orcas and sharks, massive shells, and no kelp to cling to. But he longed to touch the glowing wave crests, to dive and roll in the liquid gold. One morning, a stomach full of crab and urchin and nervousness, he started swimming. Before he realized what he was doing, he'd left his raft behind. He kept on, alert for orcas. Surely there was abalone outside his little bay, and if not, there would be something else. He had his rock and his wits, and not much else. It would be enough. Well, probably. All right, so okay, I can see where where the artist and the author Brendan Marnell was going with this. So yes, so it's kind of an otter getting away from his pack and embarking on a new adventure. But there are dangers out there. There's orca, there's other things, but there's also plenty more fish and other things to look forward to. So that is what I'm getting for the Fool for this deck. All right, so let's move on to the Magician. And I really like this card. This was one of my listed as one of my love cards. So yeah, I definitely like this card specifically because it's got this raven or crow on it, and it really makes me think of the Morrigan, who is a goddess that I am devoted to. So this card definitely gives me Morrigan energies. But I also really like this card because my two favorite Major Arcana cards are Strength and the Magician. And so in general, I love Magician cards. I love the Magician in general. We are getting that infinity symbol that is associated with the Magician, and the Magician is kind of he has all the tools in front of him, or she or they. The Magician has all the tools in front of them. They have everything they need, and it's almost sort of a mastery of these tools, a mastery of their skills, and that's part of why I really like the Magician. My favorite Minor Arcana card is the Eight of Pentacles, and I sort of see a connection between the Eight of Pentacles and the Magician. It's sort of a mastering your craft, mastering your art, where the Eight of Pentacles is in the process of mastering that skill. The Magician is a master. So, and that's what I really like about the Magician. And the crow or raven here, I think it's a crow, but it's very regal and queenly. And another reason why I kind of like, I liken this card to the Morrigan. Very regal and queenly and in charge, and it knows exactly where they know exactly where they're going, and that's what I get from this. So let's see what the book says. So yes, Northwestern Crow. Action, creativity, resourcefulness, skill, clear communication, a conduit, accomplishing goals, manifesting ideas into the tangible world. The crow held her stick aloft, shaped it, cast it deep into the tree. She ensnarled insects, ate them, drew strength. The crow took umbrage with the intruder and cursed him in the collective memory. He would never again experience peace as long as a single crow was present to harry him. The crow cawed and summoned 1,000 of her kin, a raucous cloud of black feathers darkening the trees in a parody of leaves they had recently shed. She growled and cooed to the lively murder that surrounded her, a dark and fluttering defense against predation. The crow used what she had to do. The crow used what she had to do what she must. The crow used what she had to do what she must. So yes, and it is a sort of using what you have, taking the tools that you already have in your with you to create change, to create, and make change and all that. So yes, I do very much like this card. There isn't a whole lot of symbolism in the card itself to connect to the magician, and that's why it is helpful sometimes to read the guidebook that comes along with decks, especially if they sort of deviate a bit from the traditional Rider-Waite or Mercier or whatever type you're reading. But yeah, when a deck has the essence of a card, but maybe not all the symbolism, it does really help to have the guidebook to understand where the artist was coming from. All right, so the High Priestess, and this is a beautiful card. I almost put this in my love pile. I didn't, but I almost did. I do very much like this card, though. And we do get that symbolism of the moon there. All right, so the High Priestess is kind of a card of mystery and intuition. It's kind of a doing things on instinct, following intuition. It's not, you're not doing things that are in a laid out plan. It's sort of it's going by just what you know. It's an instinct. There's hidden information. There's maybe things that you don't know, and you're just acting based on gut feeling or and it does kind of have an association with dreams and spirituality. Yeah, and connecting with the divine, connecting with spiritual energy. And here we have this spider, and it's coming out of the folds of this flower. And I believe I remember reading some of the guidebook on this one, and it had mentioned that the spider's kind of hiding beneath the flowers. So, and it sort of blends in with the flowers as well, because we get that yellow from the center, and that's mirrored in the yellow of the spider, and the spider itself is just a lighter shade of this purple flower. So it's we're definitely getting that hidden, like, camouflage energy, and sometimes there's these dangers that are hidden beneath, and that is why the spider is hiding, because it wants to catch prey, but it's also just going by instinct, and there's an intuition to it. Yeah, so very nice, and I believe the book says something pretty similar, because I think I've read this before, and this is a goldenrod crab spider. So the keywords are secrets, mystery, intuition, hidden talents and knowledge, accessing the subconscious, stillness. The crab spider scoffed at the showy web in the nearby sapling. Instead, she perched inside her flower, a delicate secret enfolded in the petals, and she waited. So instead of using a web, she uses the folds of a flower. That's very interesting. She waited until her coloration matched the flower. She waited until until what she needed came to her. In the stillness, she relied on intuition. For the unsuspecting honeybee, drawn close by color and nectar and curiosity, the flower's hidden knowledge was revealed only in her last moments. As the spider's embrace unfolded around her, the drone realized that secrets can be dangerous. So, yes, I see that reflected in the High Priestess here. All right, next card. We have the Empress with a bunny. All right. And this really fits with the Empress, because a lot of times with the Empress card, we're seeing a pregnant woman or a pregnant person. And some people don't really, it's like, all right, every card has a pregnant, every Empress card has a pregnant person on it. And because the Empress often does symbolize a sort of fertility, but it also in general symbolizes nurturing, and that's why we often associate the Empress with a womb, but there's lots of ways to display nurture, and it's not just a pregnant body or a motherhood type energy or something like that, because that can get quite I don't know if sexist is the right word, but this idea that only motherly energies can be nurturing and kind and creative. But with that said, we are seeing a bunny, and bunnies are often associated with their ability to rapidly get pregnant and produce lots and lots of babies. So it does make sense that the artist did choose a rabbit for the Empress here, and we do see these growing vegetation, or flora all around this bunny. So there's things growing. There's grass behind the bunny here, and in front, all around. So there's a lot of things growing here, and that makes sense for the Empress. And it does sort of make me think of the little bunny that is living outside of our front house right now. Yeah, and just the bunny seemed to make our front porch her home. Driving our dog nuts, by the way. We had to put some wrapping paper on the front window, a little on the bottom part of the front window, so she'd stop. She was knocking over our Yule tree. The tree's gone now, but because it's January now, but she was knocking over our Yule tree. So we had to put wrapping paper on the window there, so she'd stop barking at the bunny in our front yard. All right, so the Empress. This is a mountain cottontail. And the key words for the Empress are fertility, sensuality, nurturing, creative expression, beauty, abundance, nourishment, and growth, and nature, and general nature card. So yes, and I do see that very much expressed here. An enclosed earthen space, warm and dark, protected, hidden, enough room to kick a hind paw, but not much more. Cradled and supported by surrounding earth, sounds muffled by many layers, safety, a store of nourishment, a place to develop and grow, a warren, a womb. So yes, they Brendan Marnell very much leaned into the womb energy of the Empress card here. I'm sorry if my reading is really chopped up. I don't know. With the camera on me, I find it's very difficult to read out loud. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm stumbling over the words I'm reading a lot. And yeah. Anyway, so we have the Emperor, and I really think this shows the Emperor very well. With the differences between. Whoops! I keep dropping the little pen that I have right here to mark the where the camera stops, so I stay in frame, but I'll just keep that off the table there. So the differences between the Empress and the Emperor, I mean, it is quite, I don't want to say gendered, but it is quite gendered here. It's kind of a queen and a king, and that's the energy we get. Whereas with the High Priestess and the Magician are kind of the Magician is almost the High Priest, and then we have the High Priestess. So we've got that duality of energies, and it doesn't necessarily have to be gendered. I don't think the Magician is gendered. It could be either. But with the Empress and the Emperor, I mean, it is quite gendered. And the Empress has a lot to do with growth and nurture, whereas the Emperor has a lot to do with it's almost a stoic sturdiness. And here we have this animal. I think it's probably some sort of bobcat or something like that. In fact, I'm just going to look real quick. Oh, it's a mountain lion. Of course, it's a mountain lion. And here we have this mountain lion living in this very almost barren land, and which is very different from the Empress, who is lush in greenery and flora and all that. With the mountain lion, he is experiencing his domain is something that's very sparse, very stoic, very barren almost. And we do have these greenery here, but this is living in a harsh environment. And the Emperor is someone is a card that exemplifies just stability and structure, and it kind of I wouldn't say ruling with an iron fist, but like just very straightforward and very gosh, I'm having a hard time thinking of the words, but let's see what the book says. So authority, yeah, I think authority was the word that I was trying to find. It rules with authority, structure, discipline. That's a good one too. Control, focus, pragmatism. That's also something I really like. And I see, I have sort of a, I don't, I wouldn't say a love-hate relationship with the Emperor. There's a lot about the Emperor card that I really feel connects with my own personality because I am a very pragmatic kind of person. Um, but um, but then there's other aspects of the Emperor where I find very rigid and not very flexible. And yeah, so that is my feeling on the Emperor. So protection, systems, and rules. And I am not a rules person. So um, yes, the Emperor surveyed his domain from atop the peak. He held authority over this land, and none could challenge him. He didn't feel gratitude exactly for his unassailable position at the apex of the footweb. That would have required him to acknowledge that he could have been born as something lesser, some fearful herbivore cowering in the shadows and bolting from danger. But he did feel responsibility. This was his mountain, his land, his creatures. And when he took one as tribute, he did so with the knowledge that he could only occupy the apex because the land itself supported him. So that's very interesting. I quite like that. And responsibility was a big keyword too that wasn't in the keywords, but it was in the description. And responsibility is another aspect of the Emperor. So yes, so it is a firm ruler, but a just ruler. And that's the energy I get from the Emperor. And finally, we have the Hierophant. And I actually quite like this card. I'm not sure why I didn't put this in my love pile because this is just a really pretty card. I love the contrast in colors here, the pops of blue on this brown background. This is the artist in me coming out here and just appreciating the artwork of the Hierophant here. So the Hierophant in general tends to be one of my least favorite Major Arcana cards. And you know, in this deck, I actually really like it because it's really beautiful. But the artwork is what I really like here. But the reason I often clash with the Hierophant because it's a bit too much structure, whereas the Emperor. I said that I sort of have a love-hate relationship with the Emperor, and that has to do with the rules and stringent behavior of the card. I feel like the Hierophant sort of takes that to a new level, and the negatives of the Emperor. For me personally are kind of exemplified in the Hierophant. Like this, if we're talking about rules here, this is the ultimate card of rules and organizations and institutions and things like that. So we have the key, and what I like about the Hierophant is it is sort of a it's a teacher, and I do like to learn things, but for me personally, I had a hard time in school. I love to learn. In general, I think of myself as fairly intelligent, and there's you know, I did well in subjects, but I didn't do well in school, if that made sense. If that makes sense. And it is that sort of the organization, institution energy that I get from the Hierophant that sort of just hits me in places that are uncomfortable for me. So, but what I like about the Hierophant is it's about teaching and growing, and here we have a bee or a wasp, I think. I'm leaning towards wasp just because of the size of the body, but it could just be a really zoomed in bee. And then we got this honeycomb around it, so probably a bee. We do have the keys, the key to knowledge here. So the knowledge energy I really like about the Hierophant. And here, bees have to be very structured, and it is a working in unison with the hive. So let's see the Hierophant, the honeybee, and this is the queen bee, so that's why she's big. Yeah, so that's why she's big here. All right, so structure, tradition, conformity, and then there's a bad word for me. Conformities, social hierarchies, tradition and norms, traditions and norms, education, beliefs, and institutions. So yeah, structure, hexagonal structure, hierarchical structure, the structure of a cell, a space in which a larva will grow into an adult, but just a small part of the larger comb, the structure of a dance performed just so to convey a message of opportunity or threat, the structure of a hive, the structure of a society. It's very interesting. All right, so I think that does work with the Hierophant. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out, I'm going to put this pile right here, all the cards here, right here in the middle, and I'm going to make sure I'm in frame here. And then I'm going to really shuffle these cards a bit, and okay, I guess this one wants to come out here, so, and I guess we'll go with this one too. All right. So, with the Fool in the center as the focus card, I've pulled the Ace of Wands and the King of Cups. And the Ace of Wands really connects to the Fool here, because the Ace of Wands is a burst of passionate energy. It is just, if we're talking about the Fool leaping before it's looking, it is powered by the Ace of Wands here. And then the card here, the King of Cups, is kind of that person, the animal that is often in the Fool cards, that the King of Cups is like, whoa, hold your horses here. watch where you're going. Hold on. Let's not leap before we look here. So this is kind of that controlled energy, that controlled voice of reason, that's really just saying, hey, hold on there, not quite yet. Don't just jump straight into this. Let's think about this before we jump into this. And yeah, and I would say it would be pretty wise if you are the Fool here and you're powered by this exuberant energy of the Ace of Wands, to stop a minute and listen to that voice of reason. So that is definitely what I'm seeing there. And this is a canna flower, and this is a leatherback sea turtle. So, and this is actually the card that I ever so slightly bent right here. I'm not sure if the camera can see it, but I ever so slightly bent that card. It's very, very slight. You can hardly see it. I can slightly feel it if I run my finger over it, but yeah, I ever so slightly bent the King of Cups. Anyway, so that is reading one. Let's try another one here, and this is still shuffled. So we've got the King of Swords, and we've got the Knight of Pentacles. Wow. Okay. Okay, so this is an interesting combination here, because we've got two court cards here, which means there's a lot of energy, people energy around this center Fool situation. And the Fool here is wanting to, jump straight into things. And there's just a lot of energies around the Fool that are doing the opposite. The King of Swords, and here is the page for it. We have a great blue heron, and the King of Swords is very... So yeah, I was thinking rational. The book here says authority born of rational thought, clarity of mind and purpose, insight, seriousness and strictness, exacting standards, truth. So this is like super strict energy here, and that's possibly stifling this. And if this card was something a bit more playful, like maybe, gosh, the Knight of Swords, or something like that. I would say that in this reading, the Fool is breaking away from this stringent, strict energy from probably some sort of authority, and leaping into a getting away from it, going your own way sort of energy. However, we have the Knight of Pentacles here, which is kind of backing up this person. So this Fool energy it's got one person that's an authority and very strict and stringent on rules, and then you have another person that you think is going to have your back, but really this person's saying, you know, I think it's a good idea that we follow the rules here. So that is the energy that I'm definitely getting from this one. All right, so there's 2 readings for this. I'm going to get 2 cards for the High Priestess now. Death and the Devil. Wow. Now, honestly, I would just read this as there's a lot of unknown energies here, and we're not going to like it. So there's a temptation, but this is saying that there's hidden energies here, and I think we need to be aware of those hidden dangers, because that's how I would read this reading. There's hidden dangers going on, and there's a temptation to lean into that. But yeah, I would say in this particular reading, we would not want to do whatever is up here. So yeah, there we go. So let's do Temperance. Wow, we're getting a lot of Major Arcana cards here. Maybe I did not shuffle very well, but I did a few shuffling. You know, I paused the video and just shuffled a bit so that it would be more shuffled when I was doing this, but I don't think I did it very well. All right, so we have Temperance and the Two of Swords. So Temperance is all about keeping things in balance. It's kind of or in moderation, and to have patience, and yeah, and even compromise is something I think of with Temperance. It's a very balanced energy, and then that makes sense with the Two of Swords here, because that's talk about balance there. Twos are the numbers of balance and choices. So I would say that there's a lot of unknown information about whatever the situation is, and to keep a cool head, because we don't know which direction we want to go in. We don't know which choice to make. We're blind to the choice, and we may have to make a blind choice and compromise on that, and make a choice that we don't have all the information on. And but there's also with Temperance, there's advice to take that decision slowly and really think it over. And but there may be a choice that you'll have to make that you just don't have all the information on. So there we go. So those are for the High Priestess. And now we have the Magician. Let's draw 2 cards here. We've got the Four of Pentacles, and we have the Nine of Pentacles. So I would read this as in the sense of money here, and it's not just because I'm seeing pentacles, but you know, my mind does go there. But I would say that the Magician here has a lot right now. They have resources, and the advice is to hold on to those resources, and because spending willy-nilly is not going to lead you to the Nine of Pentacles here. So I would see this as a keeping hold of what you have, instead of spending frivolously, or instead of holding things tight right now. And that's definitely how I would see this. All right. And now we have the World and Strength. Wow. So this is pretty funny, because I was saying that my 2 favorite Major Arcana cards are the Magician and Strength. And in fact, if you watched the previous video for my separating into 3 piles, the World came up, was my least favorite card in this particular deck. So I've got my 2 favorites in general, not necessarily this deck, but 2 favorite Major Arcanas, and my least favorite Major Arcana in this deck. So that's just interesting. But how I would read this, I would see this as someone who is feeling on top of the world, who has everything they need, and is now in a position of power and strength. And we got the two infinity signs here. Gosh, this is me just reflecting myself here, but Magician and Strength are my two favorite Major Arcana cards, and both of them have the infinity symbol. And my favorite number in general, and I don't know if I'm strange in the fact that I have a favorite number, but my favorite number is 8, and I've always liked infinity symbols because they kind of look like an 8 sideways. So yeah, it's just a very interesting combination for me personally here. Sometimes doing these random little readings, you get like tidbits of, when they're not even connected to me or connected to whatever, I see little bits of myself. So now let's do the Empress. We've got 8 of Pentacles. This is my favorite card in every in tarot in general, is the 8 of Pentacles, and the Page of Wands. Okay, so these are 3 cards that are just showing a whole lot of creativity. With the Empress and the Page of Wands, these are both cards about a lot of creativity, and just especially with the Page of Wands, there's like this instance of excitement and or an idea, or like, I just want to create something. And my goodness, I really connect with this reading. This really makes me think of me and how I operate. Because my favorite card is the 8 of Pentacles, because I really just see that as myself. I don't know if any of you are into like MBTI stuff, the personality types, but if you are, I am an ISTP, and I really see the 8 of Pentacles as being the ISTP card. It's someone who is just hard at work at their craft, and something that they really excel at, and it's like a physical work, and I really like physical work, and physical, well, and not work, but physical creation is what I like. And I see the 8 of Pentacles as always being in the zone. And when I'm doing my artwork, or I'm doing crafting and things like that, I feel very much in the zone. And that's why I love the 8 of Pentacles, because it just really exemplifies that. But the Page of Wands here is that burst of like, I just have to create this, I have to do this, and I don't really have a plan for it. I suddenly have this idea, and I'm just going to do it. And that is a lot of the times how I operate. I don't really like to make plans for things, especially when it comes to creative plans. I just kind of, in my mind, I think, I just want to do this, and I just start creating it. And that's what I do. So I really connect with this random reading here. It's so funny. All right, so let's do the next one. So we have the Wheel of Fortune, and we have the Ace of Swords. Okay. So this reading, I think we're stepping away from that creative energy of the Empress, and here I'm really seeing that nurturing energy of the Empress, and those cycles of life and death with the Wheel of Fortune here. And the Ace of Swords is, I think this is kind of a new perspective or new idea that's really come through, maybe a word of truth which can cut deeply, and because these leaves here of this, I believe it's a star lily, these leaves really make me think of swords, and so I understand why he chose these star lilies for the Ace of Swords here, because it does feel like that sword energy, these cutting truth, this new idea, or something breaking through, and breaking through the water lily here. Yeah, it's I definitely get that energy from the Ace of Swords here. So, and the Wheel of Fortune is kind of that turning wheel. Things, it's the cycle of life. It's like, this too shall pass. So there's a sort of a truth or something being revealed, but it's a truth that finally gets things in motion. It's finally moves things along, and there's this nurturing energy to this. So I would possibly read this as truth breaking through a difficult situation or something like that, but it really finally gets things into motion, and that wheel can turn again, and there's a comfort in that. So yeah, that's how I would read that. All right. And now we are moving on to the Emperor. So we have the Five of Pentacles and the Ten of Pentacles. That's so interesting because we got this sparseness that's here in both of these. The Five of Pentacles is like super sparse, and there's not much to it. And I don't know what animal this is. I think I remember seeing not too long ago. Here it is. It is the pronghorn. So yeah, and their keywords are poverty, need, lack, adversity, hardship, loss, desperation, worry. And we've got this lone pronghorn here, just barely surviving in this harsh environment, and the Emperor, who is, you know, basically in charge of this harsh environment, and is bringing that the growth here, which leads to an intense amount of growth and legacy. And I would read this as sticking out these hard times, to take a more structured and measured approach, because eventually it will lead to a great positivity, this out of poverty into this thriving environment. So yeah, that's how I would read this. All right, next one. We've got the Five of Cups, and Justice. Five of Cups and Justice. Okay, so this is very interesting because we have the Five of Cups which is often about a loss, and grief, and paying attention to what we've lost and not what we have. Things like that. And then the Emperor being that very stoic, pragmatic energy. And then we have Justice. So quite possibly we're seeing here that those two upright cups here are telling us that there is justice coming for whatever it is, whatever wrong we've dealt with here. And sort of that same advice from the previous two cards is sort of that be firm, stand up for what you believe in, be very pragmatic about this, because justice is coming for this. Justice is coming to right those wrongs. And yeah, and there's a certain energy of accountability here, and really, yeah, that's what I get from that. So yeah, there we go. So let's move on to the next card, and this is our last one, the Hierophant. Now, the two cards here, we've got the Page of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles. All right. Okay, so with the Page of Pentacles, this is someone who is kind of just starting out on an adventure. And when I say adventure, because I think of the Page of Pentacles as someone who just started a startup, or maybe just started a Kickstarter, or just started a business adventure, is sort of what I think of with the Page of Pentacles, where they've just started. They're still in the planning phase for the most part, but there's this wanting desire to start something and to go into something. The Hierophant is that teaching advice, and it kind of connects here with the Six of Pentacles, because the Six of Pentacles is that very generous energy, and it's sort of that giving and receiving. So I would see this as someone who is wanting to do wanting to start something, but needing that education to really move forward. And the Six of Pentacles is saying that, look, you've got to pay into this education to really move forward on this. So you're gaining something, but you're also, it's sort of that you got to spend money to make money sort of cliche, though I don't necessarily agree with that. It depends on the circumstances. But in this reading, it is that sort of advisement to spend a little bit before we start moving into that night energy, to that really getting that started. We've got to get some education that we're gaining something from it, but we have to give to get that. So yeah, that's what I would see with this. And the last little reading here with the Hierophant, we've got the Moon, and we have Knight of Cups. Okay, so this is a very interesting combination of cards here. The Moon and the Hierophant are two cards that I would not normally see connected together like this. And then we have the Knight of Cups, which still kind of fits in with this Moon energy. So I would, so the Moon really has a lot to do with intuition, again, like the High Priestess a bit, but it's more of the dreamy side of things. It's on a negative thing. In fact, here's the book for it. It says intuition, illusion, dreams, duality, deception, vagueness and misconceptions, instability, anxiety, and insecurity. And the Knight of Cups says romance, love, charm, creativity, beauty, passion, compassion, and understanding, emotion motivated into action, unrealistic expectations. And that last bit, unrealistic expectations, I think that's the energy that I'm like, we've got dreams here and we've got unrealistic expectations with the Hierophant in the middle. Like, gosh. And I feel like this is an energy that really stifles that. You know? So there may be a clash of what you want to do versus what's actually feasible, and that could be one reading of this. Or since these two things are flanking this Hierophant, we could say that we're encouraged to loosen up our rules a bit, loosen up our standards, something like that. That could be a possibility. So either I guess it would depend on the context of the reading itself. All right, so that is day 4. So I was thinking that I was going to do these a couple days together, but I think the walkthrough, since I'm doing the readings as well, I think I'm going to have to do the days as one video per day, and this will last several videos here. So all right, so thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye everyone.